Salem's Lot was a novel published by King in 1975. The story takes place in the fictional town of Jerusalem Lot, Maine, which would become a recurring location for much of King's works. The novel follows several townsmen as they slowly become vampires. The novel was adapted into a miniseries which was released in 1979. Tobe Hooper directed the miniseries after making waves with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hey guys, and welcome back to Garage Stephen-King-a-thon, where every day for the month of October, we explore a Stephen King adaptation. Today, we're talking about not a film, but a miniseries, and that miniseries is Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot was a two-part miniseries, much like the It miniseries that everyone remembers. And just like the It miniseries, this one kind of got a cult following. And how much of it is nostalgia and how much of it is due to its quality, I would say, in my opinion, not having grown up with this miniseries, I wasn't even born at the time, I would say it's about a 50-50 mix of both. I'm sure some people who think fondly on this movie are kind of forgetting the flaws with the movie, but at the same time, this movie isn't without merit. There's a lot really good in this series. This movie was directed by Tobe Hooper. Tobe Hooper is one of my favorite directors when it comes to horror films. He's made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but he also did Poltergeist, and controversial to many people's opinion, I actually like Texas Chainsaw Massacre too, but that's a bit more of a tongue-in-cheek sequel. Tobe Hooper is known for being a difficult character to work with, and I don't know about any behind-the-scenes drama when it comes to Salem's Lot. I do know that this was a pretty different direction for Tobe Hooper. When Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, it had such a grungy feel. It felt very dirty. It felt very mockumentary, which many people will credit the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as being one of the first found footage films. I wouldn't call it that, but it does have that found footage style to it. And then here he comes with Salem's Lot, and Salem's Lot is a much more atmospheric film. It's a lot more spooky. It's a lot more classic Haunted Mansion feel. So while it's not as in-your-face as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there is a lot to appreciate with this in terms of scares. The shots where there would be a little boy and he's knocking on the window, there's a very eerie vibe to those moments. And Tobe Hooper was very adamant about using a crane rather than wires, because he thought wires would have a bit less of a specific feel, and he thought the crane would be more smooth, something like that. But I can see where he's coming from with wanting to use a crane, despite it being much more a pain in the ass. Other than that, just the design of the vampire itself. When we think vampires, we think of the Bela Lugosi vampires, the Widow's Peak and Fangs and that kind of vampire. But Tobe Hooper decided to go with a more classic German portrayal of a vampire. This vampire here is much more similar to Nosferatu than it is to the Hollywood Dracula. And I kind of like that direction. And he also makes the vampire an odd color. He's like this very cold blue color, and his eyes are yellow, and much more colorful vampire than we've seen in the past. But I like that about this movie. It has a very distinct feel. The problems I have with this miniseries aren't in terms of the scares. The scares are very effective, and considering that usually miniseries have smaller budgets than feature-length films because they have a longer runtime, the scares really work in here. Yes, some sets look a little like a set, but Tobe Hooper is a master in horror filmmaking, and I feel like that is demonstrated despite the limitations of the miniseries budget. The problem I have with this miniseries is more in terms of pacing. In the first half of this series, you're introduced to so many characters that after a while it becomes a little difficult to keep a track of who's with who and how is this one connected with this one. And there's so many characters, and not only characters, but they each have their own relationship. And I feel like that works better in terms of a novel because they give enough time to explain everything in depth and it helps you memorize what's going on. But in terms of a miniseries, it didn't quite work. The pacing feels very TV. As soon as something slightly frightening happens, it cuts to commercial break, and then you pick up in a totally different scene, and you're just like, whoa, what happened? The version I watched was basically a theatrical release that was released in Europe, so it's basically the miniseries, but smushed all together, and it doesn't quite work as well as a feature-length film because of that TV pace, because of those moments where it would cut to commercial break, but instead you're just going to the next scene. I feel like that kind of broke the pacing of the miniseries. It feels very episodic, like as if they're doing everything in 8-minute fragments because you have to take into account commercials. And because of that, I can't help but feel there's like a little, just something missing in terms of pace. I feel like as soon as I would get into the atmosphere, it would cut to another scene and I'd be like, okay, now we're here, sure, whatever. There is one scene I enjoyed quite a bit, and it's because it reminded me of... Do I have the movie here? Yes, I do have the movie here. It reminded me of Human Tornado, which is a classic Rudy Ray Moore film. So in Salem's Lot, there's a scene where Fred Willard, the great Fred Willard, ladies and gentlemen, is in this, by the way. But Fred Willard is having an affair with a married woman, and as they're making out, the husband barges in on them with a shotgun, and the wife says, "He tried to rape me."
After all.
Cully, look, this isn't a gun. He broke in, he tried to rape me.
He was.
He broke in.
A rapist.
Cully.
Is that it?
Cully,
I'll take care of him.
wait a minute.
Shut up, rapist.
And it really reminded me of the Human Tornado, where Rudy Ray Moore is having sex with a white woman, and the white woman's like, "He tried to rape me!" To which he says, "Bitch, are you for real?"
Charlie? He made me do it!
Bitch, are you for real?
Yeah. But anyway, enough with Human Tornado. What do I think of Salem's Lot? I feel like there are some effective scares in there. And if I saw this when I was 12 years old and if this played on the TV when I was 12 and I saw the design of the vampire or those creepy kid scenes where he's knocking on the window, I would be scared out of my boxer shorts. And of course I would have fond memories of this miniseries. But I didn't grow up with it. I haven't seen it until today, as a matter of fact. So I feel like there are a lot of limitations in terms of structure that this movie had to get past that didn't quite work for me, just in terms of pacing. And I hear they're remaking this into a film, just a normal 2-hour movie, and I feel like that might work a bit when it comes to that pace. As far as the miniseries go, it left me a lot to be desired. I wish it just had a few more scares, and I wish that the scares were very complete and didn't cut to commercial break. But other than that, if someone finds this scary, it is definitely scary. The scares are there. It's just everything surrounding the scares I wasn't really a fan of. But yeah, that's my review of Salem's Lot. Tune in tomorrow, folks, where we'll review another Stephen King movie.
Stephen King, the best-selling author of Carrie and The Shining, takes you on a startling journey to Salem's Lot.